Hello everybody and welcome to Astrology for Beginners. This is the second video in what will be a series of 20 videos. They'll go for about 10 or 15 minutes each, and I'll put them in a playlist which you'll be able to very easily find on my channel because it will be called Astrology for Beginners, and you can just pick and choose from whatever you want, and I'll load them into that playlist as I do them. Now today we're going to talk about the circle, the cross and the arrow. Do you know, by the way, the reason why I'm doing this is that because of the number I do the tarot readings each month, as you probably know, and a lot of my tarot viewers have said, can you tell me something about the basic parts of astrology? Well, I can say, as I mentioned in the last video, that astrology has been around for thousands of years. In fact, it was always very deeply spiritual. Astrology. Very, very deeply spiritual. It wasn't until the 1970s that the subject became popularized, I suppose you would say, and then you'd have, two-line sentences in a newspaper telling you what was going to happen for 1/12 of the world's population, be they a Sagittarius or a Virgo or a Scorpio or what have you. Well, of course, it doesn't work like that. But what I will tell you now, I'm going to go over these symbols, and the symbols are contained in glyphs. The symbol of the circle, the cross, and the arrow. Well, what do they mean? What is the spiritual significance? Now, the symbols in astrology are called glyphs, and unfortunately, there's only one way to do it, and that is to learn them off by heart. So jump on Wikipedia and learn the symbols for the planets and for the star signs off by heart. Here we have some, which are now going from your left, is the sun, what is it? Venus, the moon, Mars, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. And you can see in the use of these glyphs, there appear to be circles, crosses, and stars. Well, what do they mean? Let's look first at the cross. I'm going to move out. Now, the cross, for example, takes place in Venus, and we'll do each of the planets in further videos, probably 3 at a time. Let me just rub those out now because we don't need to see them. They were just by way of example to show that there are arrows, crosses, and circles in things. But let's talk first about the cross. Very simple. I might also say about the glyphs. The glyphs were, because astrology was a subject that was entertained really by the elites, really by that less than 1% of people who could read and write and do mathematical calculations. It became very much an elite, almost, I don't think, well, there's very, very strong spiritual underpinnings to them. And it's a good thing for you to know at the start what the spiritual underpinnings of the various glyphs for the planets and the signs are, because that will show you that it's something more than just what you read in the back of a magazine or see in a 5-minute YouTube video. The symbols represent different aspects of cosmic evolution. They indicate the dynamic movement in nature and nature's creative impulses. Let's have a look at the cross first. Very simple. Now you'll just have to forgive me because I just use what's a very simple thing for me. Very simple. Two lines, one descending vertically and another one going horizontally, and they meet in the middle. Well, what do they represent? Is there any spiritual representation of that? The cross, incidentally, as you can see here, the cross was used thousands of years before the time of Christianity. But incidentally, it's no secret that astrological glyphs are found throughout very many of the medieval cathedrals in Western and Central Europe. And why might that be? Because there's very religious underpinning to them. So we have here 2 lines in a cross which meet in the middle. Now, what this is about is it is life eternal descending into matter. So spiritual life eternal descending into matter. And this is matter running across here. This is the male principle, And this is the female principle, which is about all of material creation, because it is the female principle which produces life. It also shows the unmanifest involving itself in a process of manifestation, which results in creation. That's what it is. The cross is the alpha and omega of creation. It's really linking pure spirit to gross matter. Under the influence of a cross, incidentally, and you'll see them where they show up in different times of the year where planets move around. When a planet or a sign becomes under the influence of a cross, what that generally means is that it brings about a period of, or a process of, it may often be a lifelong process of transformation due to the mixture of spiritual and material forces. The next thing that we saw was pretty straightforward. Isn't this high tech, the way I go about this? I like to do it by hand, and you know why? Because I find it more immediate. It actually goes to show you actually really are doing it. The next thing we can see is quite straightforward, and that's near enough to it, I'll say, is that of the circle. Now the circle is what? The circle is a central point, and we'll put that there for the time being, is a central point and a circumference around the central point. But in astrology, the spiritual meaning of this circle is not just about a circumference around it. A circle without a central point represents an area which is ripe for manifestation. So we take that central point away. The central point, if you like, is the fountainhead of divine creation. And where that central point does not exist, then the circle itself represents the opportunity and area for which manifestation can take place. Now, when it does appear with the circle, the point in the middle of the circle, what it means is that there is the evidence, symbolically, that the divinity is the prime source of all existence in all dimensions. The point and the circle together, but the circle in particular, because it often appears without the point, it's only the sun that appears with the point in the glyphs, but I'll give you the spiritual background to it here, as you can see. What the circle means is that there is a creation, and with the point in the middle, you can see where the origin of that creation is. Now, a point by itself has no direction, but the divinity has the power to move in all directions and in all dimensions. And that point that we could see in the middle of the circle, if you like, acts as a sort of continuing, flowering process of bud, a never-ending stream of creation, never-ending stream of creation. And of course, that stream flows both horizontally and vertically, and you'll remember that the vertical line in the cross was the male principle, and the horizontal line in the cross was the female principle. It shows that the male and female principles within the circle are contained in all manifestation. The female and male principle are contained everywhere. The circle is also the point from which everything comes and from which everything must then finally return. Now let's finally have a very quick look at the other thing, which is you see in very many of the glyphs. Actually, when I say that, it's actually not very many of the glyphs. It's actually, the arrow is used quite sparingly. So here we have the arrow, and we'll see that being produced. It may be long like that with a Sagittarius, or it could be shortened off to the tip of something like that, which comes on the tip of Scorpio, or it may appear in a form which is even more like that at sometimes. What does the arrow mean? Well, arrows normally mean direction, don't they? As I say, it's sparingly used in astrology, and you might ask yourself, why is that so? Well, I'll tell you. Because it's about direction and movement. It's about movement. Now, you may say, well, all planets, all signs, that is the constellations, and all asterisms, they call them, they're the other stars that are out there which we haven't put into a particular constellation at the moment. All these things are in movement. So why would there need to be an arrow demonstrating movement? Well, the arrow is about the acceleration of primal energies within the person. It's a symbol of spiritual pursuit. Now, it can occur in a sign itself, such as Sagittarius, or it can occur in a planet, such as Mars, but it's a signal of spiritual pursuit. But the arrow, like the arrow that the archer uses, the archer needs to take, first of all, the thought and have the will to fire the arrow. So it's an active pursuit of spiritual energy and spiritual enlightenment. It's not for everybody, because very often this requires difficulty in life and transforming events. The Upanishads in India, for example, speak of the need for pointing oneself towards our spiritual self and our oneness with the divinity. So it's about using your will when you see it in a sign or a planet comes across. It's about using your will to direct yourself to the higher self and submit to your higher self in order to obtain tremendous amounts of spiritual energy. Now, next video, we're going to look at the planets of the sun, the moon, and I think Mercury we might do, and that will be in video number 3. So I'll see you for that one. So until then, remember one thing, and that is that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, it's bye for now.